Okay, listen up everyone, today's story actually does matter a lot. Nintendo are suing Palworld, but it's not for the reason that you think. It's not because designs are too similar. It is cold-blooded business. And that is a quote. It's not just the opinion of me, some Westerner who doesn't understand Japanese law trying to pump up the story for you. It's what Serkan Toto called it. Cold-blooded business. Now, he runs a game consultancy firm in Japan. He is absolutely seen as a regional expert. He knows what he's talking about, and worse, for Palworld developer Pocket Pair, he thinks Nintendo will win. Now, I get it. You may think, I don't play creature collectors. This doesn't matter to me. Well, the bad news is it does. This is a direct threat to what we all enjoy. It is a threat against the entire industry. And if past predicts future, Nintendo will almost certainly win, because their domestic litigation track record is legendary. Now, I'm sure you know the phrase, if you come for the king, you better not miss. Well, 404 Media spoke to Dr. Toto, and it turns out, to his memory, Nintendo have never lost a litigation that they started. So yes, their lawyers are big brains with big wallets, and you can gear up to beat them with today's sponsor. We're going to help you transform doom scrolling into actual lasting satisfaction. They're brilliant.org/Bellular News, who actually helped me benefit from my tech rather than be hijacked by it. They make learning interactive and fun, where you basically learn by doing across thousands of interactive lessons in maths and data analysis, programming and AI. And it's all on their site and app that is gorgeously designed where everything's interactive, which means you actually feel the concepts that you're learning. This method is proven to be 6 times more effective than lecture videos, which certainly does match my experience doing lectures where I don't really remember anything, but I do remember things that I've done. Now, I love Brilliant because understanding STEM topics is vocationally useful, but also life useful. Sharp problem solving and analytical skills are important in a world that is getting more full of data, more chaotic. As an example, take their data pathway. They just relaunched it. It's packed full of real world data from Airbnb, Spotify, Starbucks, and other big businesses where you'll learn how to parse, visualize, and understand data. Of course, your professional life will thank you, and these skills, like say deeply understanding probability, can help you stay grounded in the world. So you can turn that doom scrolling into a daily learning habit at brilliant.org/Bellular News. There, you will get a 30-day free trial and 20% off an annual plan. I highly recommend them. Seriously, it is so much better than just scrolling around your phone, achieving nothing. We first caught whiffs of this months back whenever the Pokemon Company finally responded, and edited for brevity, this is what they said. We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. We haven't granted permission to use our IP or assets and intend to investigate and take appropriate measures. So they said, we're looking into it, and certainly a little bit chilling. And reading that, we're all thinking the same thing. Did Pocket Pair yoink something? Did they rip a model from Pokemon? Did they kitbash using models from Pokemon? Allegations to that effect were all over the internet. VGC actually spoke to 2 AAA 3D modelers whenever the Pokemon Company released their statement, and they basically said, you cannot in any way, and this is a quote, accidentally get the same proportions on multiple models from another game without ripping the models, or at the very least, tracing them meticulously first. One of those people said they would stand behind their words as an expert witness in court, but more relevant too today, VGC also ran it by an IP lawyer. The IP lawyer said, if proven, that would be a smoking gun. Today's statement from Nintendo and the Pokemon Company is not what we expected because it doesn't talk about copyright infringement for protected designs. Rather, it's about patent infringement. And remember, this is cold. This is business. This is about defeating your foe. So if the spirit of your complaint, say designs being too similar, is a weaker legal argument, well then your extremely expensive lawyers will not make that argument, but they will, of course, try to achieve your goals. And remember, Nintendo's lawyers are some of the best in the entire industry. And they've done easy things like knocking out these Pokemon clones from China, but more recently, we have a scary story. They won $30 million suing Colopool over patent infringement. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here. But what's spooky is the specific patents and how that litigation went down. And this is almost certainly, I believe, what they'll do to Pocket Pair because it seems like it's their playbook. They try to get them in patents. Here's a few of them. Quote, the special technology used to operate a joystick over a touch panel. Another one is a confirmation screen appearing whenever you resume a game from sleep mode. Dr. Toto summed up the others. He said this, quote, and they have 5 other ones, including one for isometric, pseudo, 3D games. When the character is hidden behind a tree, the game forms a shadow so you have a sense for where your character is, even though you don't see your character clearly. Do you know what's really funny? World of Warcraft just added that. So many games have that. You're playing an isometric game, you walk behind a tall building, but you still see where your character is. Yet, that is something Nintendo actually used. They do hold those patents, but many would say those patents are so broad and industry standard that they're invalid. And that actually is a defense in Japan. It's one that, in this case, the defendant made. They said that Nintendo's patents lacked novelty and inventiveness and therefore are invalid, so broad that they're essentially meaningless. And this is where the story gets chilling. Nintendo didn't have to win. Colopil ended up having to settle. The settlement is, of course, a mutual agreement between both companies to come to terms and stop the legal fight. But make no mistake, Nintendo were not the losers here, and it's worse than that. The settlement involves Colopil having to pay Nintendo a licensing fee for those patents. Now, by the law of the land, Nintendo did not prove their patent claim, as far as my understanding goes. Yet, even though they didn't prove that legally, they successfully strong-armed their target into number one, giving up a lot of money, and number two, into a licensing deal for those patents that many would argue are invalid by the law of Japan. But again, that argument did not get fully borne out in the court. We don't have a legal decision. And that's the thing. The legal system is supposed to uphold the law, but here, the system was the weapon, and the law didn't exactly matter. Palworld then. Nintendo's filings are not public. That means we do not know what patents they're using. The people over at Pocket Pair also don't know, but here's a Nintendo example that Stephen Totillo found in the US Patent Office, and there is crossover between the US and Japanese patent offices. You can see this amazing art. Throwing an item to catch a monster. We see some WikiHow tier art of it. We see a flowchart. And look, if it was Palworld, the Pterosaur would absolutely be holding an AK, but I don't think that detail is going to help Pocket Pal. So, let's talk about their response. Big Winston once said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." And, well, Pocket Pair are leveraging their biggest asset here, their community. And look, like it or not, whether you think a big rat creature with an AK is an artistically cohesive thing or not, the truth is that Palworld happened in a world where most of my generation loved Pokemon as kids and then drifted away from the franchise over a continued lack of innovation and pretty damn scummy business practices that just about nobody else is able to get away with. In that context, Palworld captured attention, and it used extremely sticky and battle-tested game mechanics, base building, collecting, automation to hold on to people. That does mean the community actually likes them by and large. And so in this situation, they absolutely are David, and the rocks in their sling are the community. Let's talk about their statement. They start by reinforcing that they're small, how Palworld succeeded with the community, and they end with the real message. Quote, "It is truly unfortunate that we will be forced to allocate significant time to matters unrelated to game development due to this lawsuit. However, we will do our utmost for our fans and to ensure that indie developers are not hindered or discouraged from pursuing their creative ideas." And that's really the thing. This is just the beginning. This is a battle that will take years because it's legal and that's how it goes. Palworld, though, is not just a small indie company. That's where Sony actually entered the picture. So a few months back, Pocket Pair announced a joint venture with Sony Music Entertainment and an anime company called Aniplex. Basically, right, they want to do what rocketed Pokemon and got, the Chin Pokemon episode of South Park. They want to exploit the Palworld IP outside of video games through anime, through music, probably a card game, and everything you could imagine. And that's what makes me wonder here. Do Nintendo see this as a threat? It may not be a threat now because I think Palworld is appealing to different people than just the core Pokemon experience as it is currently. But if you look at the likes of Arceus, you do actually see that, while Arceus was rightly laughed at for its visual presentation, it actually did innovate the gameplay, and it was way better than any of the other modern Pokemon games for sure. So they may be thinking, well, we want to innovate and push Pokemon forward. Maybe Palworld is going to muscle in that turf. And they've also realized something. Palworld was scrappy. It was an indie. When you hear about the development, it does seem like a little bit of a technical shit show. But that's the thing. It will only get better and stronger from here, and now it has got proper corporate backing with those joint venture agreements. So for Nintendo, if they see a rival brand to Pokemon, would they not rather kill it where it is now when it's small? And here's where I want to be clear. Every game developer should be against this, and I know that within the industry, many think that Pocket Pair are, in a way, creative hacks who couldn't even bother making their own in-universe version of a gun. They just grabbed an AK or an AR from an asset store and slapped it onto a pocket monster. But that doesn't actually matter now. That doesn't matter. What matters is this endangers us all, and it's something that's happened before. It is common understanding the game mechanics cannot be copyrighted. Exact implementation can be, but not in broad strokes. You can't go and patent the Metroidvania format. I mean, we used to call what's now the FPS a Doom clone. And yeah, if you're newer, you may not know that, but in the 90s, it wasn't necessarily FPS, it was Doom clones, but the idea of a first-person shooter is not something that id could go and copyright. But specific mechanics, well, those can be patented. And that's because copyright protects the usage of the things that you've designed or wrote, and patents are designed to protect mechanical inventions or processes. The whole point there being that if you actually make an innovation, the patent system protects your ability to exploit that, and in doing so, it creates a financial incentive for people to innovate. The thing is, though, if a patent is too broad, it can become impossible to reproduce without infringement. And that's where broad patents are a problem. And this hurts you. I would actually say it has hurt you, you just don't know it because we cannot see the road not taken. The Lord of the Rings, Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system was a true innovation, honestly. It led to emergent gameplay within that game that actually saw people forgetting about the core progression and just having fun in the sandbox settling scores with orcs. It was fun, it was dynamic, and it was a relationship with our enemies in the game that was actually player-driven. But Warner Bros. Patented it. And thus far, nobody has got past that patent. And that means that one of the 2010's greatest innovations in gaming is locked within one of the worst publishers. So if you're a AAA game or a AA, you probably don't want the risk. What if you're an indie though? Well, will a publisher pick you up and fund you, knowing that an American megacorp could just attack you? And even if you're a self-funded indie, well, what are the chances that you drop your trailer after working in secret for 2 years, your trailer catches on, and just before release, you get served with something by Warner Bros. And even worse, this chilling effect means that we're not seeing the next version of the Nemesis system, the next iteration or innovation along those lines. That's the thing, Nintendo is a bad actor here. They are, in my opinion anyway, using overly generic patents not as a true attack vector, but rather as a mind-controlling parasite, because this doesn't seem to be about winning the legal case. It seems more an excuse to pick up the legal system and to harness it to maul your opponent to death, regardless of what a trial verdict may be, because as we just saw, well, they can pull you into a settlement that is amazingly favorable to them. Now, there is a story this week about development about who I think you could call villains in the industry. It's about Unity. The whole Unity drama finally came to a close, and if you want to learn more, learn how, and see what happened, click here next.